we started doing these webinars. We wanted to try to build a community of AmeriCorps alums everywhere, and so part of those efforts have been a series of webinars where we talk about professional development and transitioning out of service, and reflecting on people reflecting on their service. So I'm proud to introduce Maya Williams today. So Maya uses they, and she pronouns. Maya is an AmeriCorps alum who just finished their term as Poet Laureate of Portland, Maine. During her service with the Goodwill VISTA Partnership at Equality Maine, Maya developed programming for LGBTQIA+ youth. Maya is a published poet, a noted public speaker, and earned a master's in social work, a certificate in applied arts and social justice, as well as a master's in fine arts for creative writing. A has competed locally and nationally in slam poetry. And here's a little bit about what you can expect to learn from this event. Maya's story, including her service and her career in poetry afterwards, tips to improve your writing, and tips for adjusting to life after service. My name is Justin. I'm hosting today. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm taking over from Casey Logan, who hosted last time when we had Shauna Bellows. I'm a marketer, business owner, and former AmeriCorps VISTA member. I served with Goodwill from 2022 to 2024, doing social media marketing, communications, to further Goodwill's AmeriCorps awareness and recruitment goals. I also founded Out There Marketing, a business with the goal of helping musicians, artists, and other creatives generate recurring revenue from social media. All right, so I'll get started with the first question here. So we heard in your bio that you served with Equality Maine and developed programming for LGBTQIA+ youth. Tell me more about what you did when you served, and a high and a low point from your service.
Yeah, so I had served for 1 year from 2018 to 2019. I was a program assistant VISTA, and I facilitated youth programming related to the arts and youth programming when it came to encouraging young people to facilitate their own projects or their own presentations. I had facilitated some LGBTQIA+ cultural competency trainings as well. I had the opportunity to go to the Creating Change conference during my time as a VISTA. So that's one high during that year. One low was and it's a mix between a low and a high, because the high part was the last part towards the end of my service. I was an assistant camp director for the New Leaders Project, and that was a huge deal. And having the opportunity to coordinate programs that young people wanted, especially that those that were art focused and intergenerational, when talking to elders in particular. But the low point was that not all of the youth camp counselors we had originally recruited were able to make it, so that was a very low point. But it was still a great event.
Great. So tell me about some of the skills that you learned during your service, and were any of them transferable or valuable for what you're doing now as a writer?
Yeah, I was able to learn more about what it means to be a consultant, especially in my work now at the Maine Transgender Network, and having the opportunity to learn more about what youth needs are, and having the opportunity to facilitate more poetry workshops focused on young people, and being able to do a yearly workshop with Scarborough High School's Civil Rights Club, and being able to learn more about the community aspect of writing through my service at Equality Maine is really useful.
Awesome. So transitioning a little bit to your what you're doing now as a writer, who or what is your greatest, would you say is your greatest inspiration as a poet?
Yeah, my greatest inspiration as far as other artists, I get really inspired again by youth poets. I get really inspired by poets such as Anis Mojgani, Kaveh Akbar, Mia Stewart Willis, Shea Alexie. I get really inspired as far as topics go. I get really inspired by suicide awareness and suicide prevention,
Right.
interpersonal relationships, healing, humor. What does it mean to find joy more naturally instead of having it forced upon you? Stuff like that.
Awesome. So, what piece or poem would you say you're most proud of?
I saw I saw these questions beforehand, and I'm just gonna say all the books that I have published right now or are forthcoming is my proudest achievements when it comes to writing.
Cool. So, I want to give some people on this call some actionable tips that they can take to improve their writing. So, writing is a hugely important skill across almost every career path. I'm doing it as I'm marketing. So, just very open ended. How can people watching or listening improve their writing?
Yeah, they can improve their writing by giving themselves a break a little bit because
Yeah.
there are times where not writing does count as writing, whether
Yeah.
you're resting or engaging in another creative outlet in order to reduce stress. So removing that pressure from yourself and giving yourself some grace will actually like help improve your writing, especially because when it comes to a lot of folks who sign up for AmeriCorps, then their natural trajectory is to work full time at a nonprofit,
Yeah.
and like, unless you have a lot of money where you can go to residencies all the time, that's not realistic for a lot of AmeriCorps Vista's schedules or like nonprofit worker schedules. So yeah, just giving yourself some grace and writing when you can, because that's when you'll most enjoy it.
Yeah. Cool. So, tell me about what some of the stuff you did as poet laureate. What were some projects that you particularly enjoyed or were proud of?
Yeah, I worked on three main projects during my time as the Poet Laureate, and there were a bunch of other readings and commission work and workshops that I did, but I'll just talk about the three main projects for now.
Yeah.
I During my first year, I did a 6-month workshop series called Poetry Across that we provide. By we, I mean myself, the Portland Public Library, and a different co-facilitator each month of the 6 months of the program. We provided a not free online workshop for folks to participate in as far as trying to navigate how poetry uh, can relate across different artistic disciplines or different points of identity. And then the second year, collaborated with the Maine Transgender Network to commission trans poets to write ekphrasis poetry. That's just a fancy word for poems inspired by pieces of art. So commissioning trans poets to write poems in response to trans visual art at the art auction, created a chapbook for that, as well as launched the Maine Trans Art Database, which is a database for Maine-based trans artists to not only gather in community, but also gain resources as freelance artists and have people in Maine actually contact them to commission them for their work, hire them for their work. And then during the last part of my term, I held a suicide awareness event called "What Do You Stay Alive For?" and it was a mix of a reading of different poets about suicide awareness and mental wellness and like how to seek joy in the midst of pain, as well as a resource hub of different organizations that were either led by people of color or served people of color in regards to mental wellness.
Great. So, I want to talk to you about AI because AI is kind of having a moment, going a little bit crazy right now. It's sort of affecting businesses and affecting a lot of things. So, how do you think generative AI? So that's any AI that you're prompting and that's spitting out something in response. So, how do you think generative AI will be used to write by people? And do you think AI is going to help or hurt writers?
Because I have such mixed feelings about AI, because
Yeah.
on one end, AI can be used as a creative tool to improve your writing. It can be
Yeah.
used as a way to as a way to engage with other people in that
Mhm.
regard. And I've read some poets who would use AI or would use Google Translate or stuff like that to
Yeah.
inspire their poems. Um, but then at the same time, AI has a tendency to steal a lot of artists' work,
Yeah.
and that includes a lot of authors' work, which
Yeah.
is not fair. And it's also not fair that it's going to come to a point where it's like, oh, which writing is real and which writing is AI, and that
Yeah.
gets scary, especially when it comes to writers who work so hard to get their works published, and then because of how AI is being implemented, that sort of distrust before publishing it. Or then yes, or some writers are like, oh, AI is going to make my writing better, and therefore I'm going to depend on that instead of my own utilized skills in writing, and that's scary too. So I have a lot of mixed feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely true. I think with writing and with art, we have a lot of examples of just like copyrighted it giving you copyrighted works and not really telling you. Tell me more. You talked about in the beginning, like some people are using it well. How do you think, like how do you think writers can use it in like an ethical or good way?
Is there so there's some poets who have written collections about AI, or have written
Yeah.
poetry collections about how AI has inspired their work. There are publications now that have an option that say, please tell us whether or not you used AI in your work,
Yeah.
or there are some publications that are like, AI is not welcome in this submission. Um,
Cool. So tell me about a time when something you wrote had an impact on someone, and how did it make you and them feel?
That's a good question. I got to facilitate a workshop at the University of Maine, at Farmington's young poets camp, Longfellow camp for high school students, and I read a poem about my journey with dermatillomania. It's a skin picking disorder related to anxiety. It's one of the listed BFRBs. It's an acronym for behavior focused repetitive behaviors. So another example may be constant hair pulling. That's trichotillomania. The more socially acceptable BFRB may be nail biting. Um, and I've had young people come up to me afterwards before to tell me like, oh, I've resonated with your poems and I relate to this. But I really appreciated like this one young person raising her hand, going, hey, I know about this silicone tool that helps decreasing skin picking. I'm more than happy to share it with you because I use it myself as
Yeah.
someone with dermatillomania too. And I just find that so sweet. I find that really sweet and brave of that young person to like say that in front of a bunch of people and not wait
Yeah.
until afterwards, and like because she felt so compelled to do so because of how relatable the work was, and that was very sweet.
Awesome. So one thing I admire about you, you take on a lot of projects and you complete them. Like I know you have
Thank you.
your works. I know you have like you've done plays at the Children's Museum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done a lot of things. So tell us about your time management strategies and how you prioritize and how you take on multiple projects at the same time.
That's a great question. I love Google Calendar. I love
Yeah.
it so much. Not only does it help me implement the times and the meetings and the projects or people I want to prioritize and the type of work I want to prioritize, it also helps me prioritize rest. There are blocks of time in my Google Calendar where I tell myself to take a break, or to make sure I'm not working on work, but like making sure that I'm writing something that's not related to work, or making
Yeah.
sure that I have some time with myself or have time with a loved one.
Right.
So yeah, Google Calendar, big fan. Um, and another thing, I love surrounding myself by people who keep me accountable as well, as far as keeping me accountable to like, so how's that project going, or keeping me
Mhm.
accountable to like, how's your heart, and like when is the last time you took a break, and all that good stuff too.
Yeah, so we'll take questions from the audience in just a moment. But to finish out my my advanced questions. This is kind of fun, open-ended question. If you were to serve again, you can pick any place to serve at, and you can pick anything to focus on. What would it be?
Because like realistically speaking, I would not serve again due to the very low minimum wage.
Right.
So kudos to everyone trying their best, and like, so I understand some folks have like had to work extra jobs while being a Vista as well. So shout out to all of you. But yeah, hypothetically speaking, if I were to serve again, and a living wage was met, and it could be anywhere that I wanted to be, where I wanted it to be, I'd love to serve with the Telling Room. They're a great statewide writing program for young people. I'd love to see what that's like. And it would be interesting to be like an AmeriCorps person at the place where I currently work at Maine Transnet, but at the same time, I'm already familiar with Maine Transnet, and granted, I'm familiar with the Telling Room as well because I've been a guest artist in their space. But it'd be interesting to be in AmeriCorps Vista, like assisting with writing workshops and classroom work, and not just like be there as like a guest workshop person or like working one-on-one with a student.
Awesome. So now we'll take some questions from the audience. So I'm gonna open our Q&A. And I'm gonna just say questions. I think everyone should be able to see this. And then I invite everyone to leave comments with their Q&A questions. Jenna asks, where can people find your writing?
Yeah, folks can find my writing at my website, mayawilliamspoet.com, or they could follow me on Instagram at mdub16. And I have a couple of works published in the Portland Press Herald that you're more than welcome to take a look at. And you could buy either one of my books. My first collection, Judas and Suicide, is available through Game Over Books, and my second collection, Refuse a Second Date, is available through Harbor Editions. And I'm coming out with a third book this year. That's a shorter collection. And that'll be coming out through the publisher Garden Party Collective.
Awesome.
And again, all of that info will be on my website. Ooh, what is something you learned through your service at AmeriCorps that you might not have learned otherwise? I learned more about what it means to keep your work at work and making sure to not take your work home with you. That I probably would not have learned otherwise if I hopped straight into a job that wasn't related to AmeriCorps. So thank you for the question.
I think that's generally pretty consistent, and I think in fact, like at least Vista does have a strict rule, like no more than 40 hours. Like they don't want you to take your work home. So I think that's a great answer. Let's see. Does anybody else have questions? So Scott asks, pretend I don't have much of a history of poetry. What would you would your elevator pitch be for it? I think sounds like he's talking about like your works in particular, or maybe just poetry in general.
That's a really good question because like oftentimes whenever I speak to people of all ages, not just young people, whenever folks tell me I don't like poetry, I'm often like, that's fine, you had a terrible teacher. Like that's usually what that is. And my elevator pitch for poetry would be that it's a writing form where you can express yourself however you'd like, and it will hold you accountable on the page. And its short form is able to allow you to experiment within the confines of that short form however you'd like.
Awesome. So here we go. Humam asks, during your downtimes, pandemic, for instance, did it affect your productivity as a writer?
That's a great question. Because for me personally, like it helped my productivity as a writer because I had more downtime and because I was able to connect with writers outside of Maine online.
Yeah.
But I also understand that everyone's writing process is different. For some people, the pandemic was really hard on their writing. And at the same time, I do believe like out of all the artistic disciplines, I feel like writers have been the most privileged because like a lot of my musician friends and theater friends couldn't go out anymore.
Yeah.
And like a lot of visual artists. That, granted, there are some visual artists who get to work from home, but at the same time, outside of like social media, no one can see it. Whereas with writing, you could send it to whoever you please.
Awesome. Okay, so we are scheduled. We are scheduled here until 6. If anyone has more questions, but at the same time, if anyone, if we don't have more questions, we can certainly end a little bit early. Is there anything you want to circle back to? Anything you remembered? Oh, I wanted to say this about like anything we talked about.
If folks would like any writing prompts to work with, I can type them in the chat. Otherwise, I don't have a lot to go back to.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful to see Justin. I'm great, and again, I'm very grateful to see some new names as well as some familiar names. Because my AmeriCorps service at Equality Maine was very special. I will sing of Gia Drew's praises till the day I die. She was an incredible boss. And she's still doing incredible work at Equality Maine. Would highly suggest y'all look into her work and continue to support youth programming in general for all, especially for marginalized youth. So yeah. Oh yeah, I could type the prompts in the chat for sure. We got a question in the chat. What do you think AmeriCorps alumni could offer that is unique and needs to be amplified? The fact that AmeriCorps alumni is doing incredible community work with the various populations they work with, and I believe AmeriCorps alumni could continue to offer more transparency, especially when it comes to not only the minimum wage aspect, but also the self-care aspect, and also what it means to navigate honoring AmeriCorps trainings and programs while also honoring the organization you signed up to work for, and also like you signed up to work for because you care about the cause at that organization, right? So yeah, being able to find that space for transparency and find that space for continuing to celebrating their good work. And also thank you all for celebrating my work. Really appreciate that, and thank you, Justin, for reaching out for this conversation.
Awesome. So if no one has any other questions, I think we can wrap up a little bit early. Maya, thank you for being here. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone in the chat for their service. And we will be following up with a with a recording from this. So if there were portions of it that you didn't remember and you want to go back to, that will be available to you. And you can watch our social media and our email list for our next slew of alumni events. And our next one of this event will be in September, and we'll be making an announcement for that shortly. So thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you. This was so lovely. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for your service. And if there were any questions where you were like, crap, I meant to ask this and then didn't, my email address is on my website, which is in the chat. So yeah, thank you again. Take great care, everybody.
Bye.